Hi, DJ Bien-Aimé. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Why are you yelling?
Because it's a radio show.
That's true.
It's a radio show, and I am a star, sir.
You are.
I am a star.
The
I'm a
biggest star.
talented man.
You are.
Thank
are.
you.
I love your hair.
Thank you. It's very floofy.
I see you letting your beard grow back out.
Yeah, we'll see how long I let it go.
Is that gray hairs?
God, I hate you. You come right in, right away with the shots.
47
It's 34.
years old. 47
It's
years
34.
old. And my brother here has gray hairs in his beard.
It's 34.
Look at my beard. No gray hair.
Yeah,
For
but
the
you
Twitch.
dye it. But you dye it.
I don't dye it. I'm 28. I don't need to dye anything.
Hey, I have a question, DJ.
Talk to me.
We had a conversation a little bit earlier, and I don't want this to be problematic. And I was just made aware that you are black. I did not know, but someone was
You didn't
asking. Someone was asking if we were allowed to say.
I thought I was Dominican.
Well, see, then we'd have to check how old you actually are. Maybe you won't. Maybe you are my age. I don't know. Am I allowed to say the word "ite"? Sean Mapes said I'm not.
Say it again.
"Ite."
It's I.
It's "I."
It's I.
All right. The fact that I'm asking you and you're saying you're not even pronouncing it right, I'm just gonna give up on it
It's
forever.
okay. It's okay though. But yeah, it's I.
Okay. Okay. So, did you get a chance to watch Bryce Young? We'll talk more about.
Of course.
We'll talk more about CJ Stroud in the next segment.
Of course. Yes. I watched a little bit of Bryce Young.
How do you feel week 2 Bryce Young versus week 2 CJ Stroud? These are the things that we're comparing in the preseason.
I mean, I would say about even. They both led both of their teams to 3 points. They both had. I would say that I think CJ had a cleaner operation. Bryce had a little bit more chaos around him at times because his left tackle was getting whooped on a various amount of plays where CJ kind of had a clean pocket for the majority of the game outside of like 2 plays. So I would say Bryce had to make a little bit more, and the people around him let him down a little bit more than the people around CJ let him down, because I think the offensive line for CJ did a magnificent job. He was only pressured on 16% of his dropbacks compared to 60 in week 1. And the only things where CJ was let down really was that one pass to Noah Brown.
Correct, where it went right through his hands.
Right. That was it, right? So I would say that CJ and Bryce kind of had comparable debuts. I mean, week 2s. And I think both fan bases should be pleased with where their rookie quarterbacks are heading.
Okay. A little bit of progress. Interesting move by the Colts as we continue to go around the league. The Colts did not play Anthony Richardson at all.
Right.
What do you think about that? I know that preseason now, it really does seem to vary team by team,
Right.
who prioritizes it and thinks that they can get something out of it. And then the also elephant in the room where you see last night in the Monday Night Football game between the Commanders and the Ravens,
Right.
where all of a sudden Terry McLaurin gets hurt and you're like, damn it, why did we play this game? Why
Right,
did we have our
right.
best player out here?
Right. Yeah, I with them not playing him, it's interesting because he's a guy that needs reps, just like Bryce needs reps and CJ needs reps. Because again, like as we talked about in the last segment, these guys are 22 or younger, so they need all the reps possible. Even though Bryce and CJ played a lot more than Anthony Richardson in college, they still need NFL live speed reps to get acclimated to the speed of the game, to understand how tight the windows are in preseason, because it gets even tighter in the regular season. So that one's a little bit of a head scratcher, but he'll play this week, hopefully. I like watching AR play, but yeah, it was a little bit of a head scratcher for me.
He's fun to watch. I remember this at Florida. The amount of ways that he throws the ball, it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily the best way to throw a ball, but he'll throw him sidearm sometimes. And he, I think of all of the guys coming into this year, is definitely the one that if you're playing a video game, you want that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he for sure has the highest ceiling out of all the quarterbacks. He probably has the highest ceiling out of all the quarterbacks since maybe Josh Allen / Lamar, even higher than Trevor. I think Trevor was just a better prospect, so he was going to hit his. Like, his floor was going to be very good, and he could be, like, superstar-ish. Anthony Richardson's floor is, like, below the ground, but his ceiling is, like, Pluto.
Yeah.
So, like, he could just do things that no matter how hard a guy like a guy's really good, like Joe Burrow, no matter how hard Joe Burrow tries to do some of the off-script stuff and work on all the off-script stuff that Anthony can do naturally, Joe just will never, ever be able to do it. And that's okay, because Anthony Richardson is just like a Greek god in terms from a talent perspective. But he has to get refined. So that's why I was kind of like, why aren't you playing him in week 2 of the preseason?
I'm on the same page with you there. But, hey, we'll see. for all we know, either Bryce or CJ could get hurt in preseason game number 3. Seems like at least Bryce is going to get more reps in that third game. One last thought, just as we continue to go around the league. Jonathan Taylor, yesterday the news was that the Colts have granted him permission to ask for a trade, but the Colts are only going to accept a first-round pick in return. Right. They continue to screw him over because you don't do this and say we're only going to take a first-round pick unless you know that no one's going to offer a first-round pick.
Right, yeah, because I don't think anybody would offer a first-round pick. Yeah, so it's like, all right, go seek a trade, but it's our demand. We want a first-round pick. It's kind of ironic because it's like you don't want to pay him top of the market value, but you want top of the market in return because you want a first-round pick. And you know, the way the league's going, nobody's giving you a first-round pick for a running back, especially at this stage of the NFL evolution where the running back position has been devalued by the rookie, the new CBA and the rookie wage scale. And again, just the league becoming more pass-oriented, more quarterback-centric. So you want to invest in all the positions that directly impact the quarterback, where the running back can that impact the quarterback, but it's more likely indirect because like you a great running back can increase your run game, but that doesn't necessarily make your quarterback better. It just makes him life a little bit easier for that guy.
Good way to put it.
Right, versus like if you want to pay for an offensive line, like 'cause we saw what not having an offensive line look like for CJ in preseason because Damian wasn't out there either, but you noticed it way more with the O-line not being out there, like Laramie and Titus and Shaq not being out there. And you saw that immediate impact, how that was directly affecting CJ, where, you know, him having Damian in week 2, Damian was cool in week 2, but CJ looked way more comfortable because he had his left tackle and his right guard who were holding it down for him. And that directly impacted him to be able to have more time to throw certain passes to Robert Woods or Noah Brown.
Let's talk more about the Houston Texans. He is DJ Bieneme, Houston Texans beat reporter for ESPN, specifically how we are feeling about CJ Stroud and the Texans a couple of days after that game on Saturday. It is from a Houston Texans fan perspective because there is a loud enough minority of fans that are weirdly either unimpressed, which okay, or annoyed by CJ Stroud thus far in the preseason.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like it's just a preseason, and he's shown enough to make you comfortable going into the preseason. Into the regular season. Like, okay, cool, he hasn't thrown any touchdown passes, but I was on the way here. I was looking at quarterbacks, like really good quarterbacks, their preseason stats. Right, I'm looking at Kyler Murray, his preseason stats when he was a rookie. He threw 0 touchdown passes, and he played 3 games, 0 touchdown passes. You know, Josh Allen, he threw a couple touchdown passes, but he completed under 60% of his passes. That was like 54.5.
He still looked very raw.
Yeah, and he had a passer rating like under something. Like
I remember
80.
thinking that was confirmation bias for me, that Allen would be a bust.
Right. And here's a really good one. Deshaun Watson, when he was a rookie, right, he completed 60% of his passes, threw 1 touchdown, threw 1 interception, and like threw for under 100 yards in 3 preseason games. So it's like, why? And those 3 guys turned into Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks. I think Josh Allen was second team All-Pro one year. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, the year that the Texans went 4-12, he was arguably one of the best passers in the league. So again, it's like, relax. Like, we don't need to have these takes of, like a definitive take in the preseason, like, CJ's not good or CJ's great. Just let it play out. Because again, like I watched Zach Wilson 2021. He looked great in preseason. Where is he now?
He is a backup quarterback for the New York Jets and seems to be on this Hard Knock show comic relief.
Come on, So it's like when preseason, you just want to see the quarterback not look overwhelmed and look like he can operate an NFL offense. And we saw plenty of that against the Miami Dolphins where he was making pinpoint accurate throws to Noah Brown. The one on the sideline rolling right, like that's not an easy throw. Dan Orlovsky on NFL Live said, like, if you did not know that was CJ, that would look like you would thought that, that was Joe Burrow. How easy the pass came off his arm, how catchable it looked for Noah Brown. And then the one to Robert Woods, right? I seen someone say, the deep out, right, for a first down, 3rd and 7. Like the play before that, we talked about on our pod. The play before that, it was like second and I want to say like 14, and he had a free rusher coming at him, and he had to throw it hot to Dalton Schultz and got it to him to put it in 3rd and 7 to have a shot to convert that, and he threw that beautiful out route to Robert Woods, and someone told me, oh, you're lowering the bar. Well, I remember last year when Davis Mills threw an out route against the Washington Commanders, it went for a touchdown, but not for the Texans. It went for a touchdown for the Commanders. So, like, the quarterback things CJ was doing on Saturday, those are things we should not minimize.
It's still one of the toughest throws to make in the game.
I'm telling you, like, there's quarterbacks that can't throw outside the numbers consistently because they don't have enough juice on their arm.
That's Davis Mills, and Mills had enough juice on his arm. He just couldn't keep it in bounds when he did throw it towards the sidelines last year in particular. So you're right on that front. There were a lot of, I thought, really good moments in this game. And one of the things you had mentioned, too, from game 1 to game 2, I just wanted him to make the right decisions, but quickly, whether that meant throwing it away or putting it in the dirt, not running for long sacks, not forcing it in coverage. And you found the data as far as his time to throw. It decreased pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
We're talking about fractions of a second here, but it's a pretty big fraction of a second.
2.9 to 2.3.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he had a whole bunch of screen passes either. Like, he had one screen pass to Nico Collins, but that was it. Everything else was just on time, in rhythm, making the right decision. The only pass that I could, like, really, like, nitpick was the one to Noah Brown, 3rd down. Not the one on the sideline, but the one over the middle where Xavier Howard broke up because he was a tick late. So that's a good learning experience for him to realize, okay, when I see that, I have to get it out quickly. I can't hold it for that 1 second because the window's closed really fast in the NFL, and that's a good learning experience. And that drive resulted in 3 points. And I'm good with what we saw on Saturday because, again, like, it's preseason. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to see that much anyway because, again, Bobby Slowick is not going to show the NFL what he's doing offensively.
It's all vanilla.
It's all going to be vanilla, mainly because he's a first-time offensive coordinator. He wants to have the edge no matter what when he goes against the Baltimore Ravens, in the sense of they're not going to know what to expect from me calling plays.
Right.
So I'm going to keep everything extremely vanilla so teams can't have any idea what we're going to do for the first 4 weeks. So after the first 4 weeks, teams will have a good grip on what his tendencies are.
I think that's why D'Amico Ryans is still not announcing the starting quarterback. I think he still wants there to be just an air of possibility that Davis Mills could be the quarterback. I'm rolling my eyes at it too, but don't you think that's the reason that they haven't made the announcement? Like,
yeah,
what other reason is there?
So I think that is the reason, but, like, John Harbaugh isn't stupid.
Yeah.
He's not dumb. Okay, if I'm looking at preseason, if I'm John Harbaugh, I'm a Baltimore Ravens head coach. Okay, CJ Stroud started week 1 against the New England Patriots. All right, cool. CJ Stroud started week 2 against the Miami Dolphins. All right, cool. CJ Stroud started week 3 against the New Orleans Saints. All right, cool.
EJ Perry, week 1.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he's not gonna be like, oh, we should, you know what? Since he hasn't announced them, let's game plan for Davis Mills. What? You know what I mean? Like, what?
It would be pretty funny if they did. That would make
It'd
me
be
so
funny.
happy.
It'd be funny, but then people would be like, "Yo, this guy might be incompetent." It'd be like, "Oh my god, he really did that! Oh my god, this guy might be a moron." Yeah.
So Stroud is the guy that we've been focusing on the most. I've seen a couple of people trying to again. I don't know if they're like related to Davis Mills or what this Mills and non-contingent's all about, but there are some people that think that Stroud should sit on the bench for a little bit. And I go back to, you just mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and it jump-started my brain, DJ. The preseason where Deshaun Watson first joined the Texans. I know that they didn't have him as the starter for week 1 because they thought they had the worst offensive line in the league. The coaching staff thought that.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
This offensive line is not that. As you saw on Saturday, where Laramie Tunsil's out there, Shaq Mason's out there, and maybe Titus Howard isn't back. It sounds like he's making some progress as far as a possible return by the start of the season. But the number that you posted on Twitter at DJ Bien-Aimé pressured on 16% of his drops, compared to it was 60% against the New England Patriots.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, exactly. So, like, CJ's going to be a guy year 1, which is why they invested heavily in the offensive line. They paid their top 3 guys, and they traded up to get a starting caliber center. It's because they know CJ, at least for year 1 and year 2, is going to need as much clean protection as possible. And when the pocket does get muddy, at least it doesn't turn into a dirt ball fest in the pocket, you know? So I think that the offensive line is more than capable of being able to give CJ the clean pockets that he needs. The only issues at times is just going to be when teams throw exotic blitzes at him and they throw stunts that could throw off the slide protection. Because we saw that against the Miami Dolphins. Because like those free runners at CJ, that wasn't because on the right side, George Fant forgot to block Emmanuel Agba, or on the left side, Laramie Tunsil forgot to block Andrew Van Kinkel. It's just because they were sliding the protection a certain way, and the Dolphins were able to have a blitz come to counter that. You know, sometimes good defensive coordinators make good play calls to exploit a slide protection. Simple as that. So when those moments happen, how does CJ react when those exotic blitzes get thrown at him?
Other news for this week: no joint practices against the New Orleans Saints, which is a bit disappointing, but I think I get it. We were talking about it on Saturday. We both look at that loss and we're like, I mean, it was pretty bad after the main players for the Texans left the field.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where once you get a little bit lower on this depth chart in particular, things get dicey. So I could understand why D'Amico would say, you know what, we don't want to risk any more injury in practice this week.
Yeah, like for what it's worth, most NFL teams are thin. They're 22 deep for the most part, right? So when we say they don't have that much depth, most teams don't. Like the Texans have depth at cornerback and running back and a little bit on the O-line, because once Fant goes back into the swing tackle role, he's much better in that spot versus you have him be the starter. But yeah, like other positions, it kind of drops off a little bit, which is normal for most teams. Like the two teams that were the most healthiest last year were in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the Eagles. They were the two most healthiest teams, and that's why they were able to advance as far as they did, right? The other teams that were able to make some deeper runs were also healthy. Like the Cowboys were fairly healthy, and the Niners were fairly healthy, and until Brock Purdy's elbow exploded. And obviously the Bengals were healthy. The Bills were not as healthy, and that's why they got road run. Even though the scorer, you wouldn't think that, but if you watch the game, you would know they got road run because they had a bunch of injuries, right? From Von Miller to DeMar Hamlin to I think Micah Hyde. I think Porter played, but he dealt with some injuries too. Trey White had injuries. So like most teams are thin across the board, and that's normal because it's the NFL and this is a hard sport, But obviously the Texans don't have as much depth as some of those other teams. So I understand D'Amico being like, all right, we don't want to risk any injuries, because if we lose players here at this position or that position, it can get really bad for us. Because we saw last year when the Texans got decimated at linebacker and a little bit on the D-line, that's when their rush defense really fell off a cliff.
Yes, it did. One last question. Sunday night, Texans preseason game number 3 against the New Orleans Saints. What's the next step for the guy that we're all really watching this whole entire thing for a CJ Stroud from last game to this game? Because we obviously saw him pick up the pace, and we saw him, I think, look a lot more comfortable behind a better offensive line.
Yeah, I would just say, hopefully we can just get a couple deep shots, just so he can get the feel of what it's like throwing the ball down the field against an NFL defense. That's the only thing I truly want to see next.
Do you think that's going to be part of the Bobby Slowick experience?
Nah, not necessarily. Like, that's not throwing the ball deep down the field isn't in the West Coast offense for real. Like, obviously it is, but it's not like a staple. Like, they're more short, intermediate for yak opportunities. Because pushing the ball down the field, I know we see Josh Allen do it and we see Mahomes do it, but like, those are one-on-one guys. If you rely on that solely, and if you rely on that solely, and you don't have those type of guys, like, it's gonna be a lot of 3 and outs. Like if you rely solely on the explosive play, you're gonna have some issues at times. Which is why Miami, during that December stretch, they had some issues because teams were taking away the explosive play because they were so explosive play reliant. So. And it's weird because they also run a West Coast type of offense, but they also have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, so that's why they were able to push up down the field a little bit more or incorporate that. But for the most part, like they're going to be an intermediate, short type of off passing attack, and then let their guys create after the catch.
He is DJ Bieneme. You can catch all his work at ESPN.com, at DJ Bieneme on Twitter. DJ, it's always a pleasure. A pleasure, sir. Have a good one.
No problem. No problem. Get the gray out your beard.
I can't. I can't do it. It's just there. I'm not